a part of the work of life is dying before you die. That's putting it on the line. When we went to the Springs, we had no return ticket.
Yeah.
It was one way. And said, all right.
Put yourself into it. You're like, this is my thing. I'm doing this. This is similar when I started Crossroads. It's like, this is the thing. There's no plan B. I'm in. You're saying you put yourself in that spot in your 60s.
Yes, and that's
70s.
70s, sorry. One more time. How old are you both of you right now?
87 here.
83. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! This is so good. Just you think that you're impressed with yourself. I feel like a weenie boy with you two. My gosh, 80s. I'm such a loser. Wow. How's the retreat center going?
Oh,
great.
Man.
Is it?
Yeah, really is,
Yeah.
Brian.
Why? What makes it go great?
Well, what makes it go great is that a lot of people come and a lot of people's lives are changed and touched.
How many people a week are you guys getting in on an average week?
Well, let's put it this way. On an average week, all 4 cabins are occupied and every day.
Wow.
So we literally are booked through months in advance.
Really?
A year.
That's awesome. A year.
Yeah. And we did stats on the first 10 years, and we had over 10,000. And 4 cabins. I mean, this is, and that's not counting people who stayed with us. So.
Wow. Are you recording this, Dirt? I'm like, we have to make sure we get that out. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. That is inspiring.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start because virtually anything else we say right now, I'm going to say, let's make sure we say that again in the deal, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the aggressive life. Legacy is what you leave behind, and it's actually an aggressive move to start thinking about it now. No matter what your age or your status in life, the death rate's hovering right around 100%. And you should want to make an impact with whatever years you have, whatever you are, 18, 28, 38, 58, 88, whatever it is. You should want to make an impact and change people around you and believe that you can. That's why this is called the aggressive life. This is not called the contemplative life, though I appreciate being contemplative. But this is called the place to get moving and get going and to have a little locker room conversation about that. Sometimes picturing the end and having it in mind is helpful. Like, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to work towards in your life? That's where my friends Dick and Sybil Towner come in. They're currently co-directors of The Springs, a retreat center in southeast Indiana that allows people to escape from the grind of their busy lives so they can connect with, hear from God, and just get in a different place. I've been there. It's great. They've got different little learning exercises. You can set up a personal time with the spiritual director we have with us today, Sybil. And, man, it's really amazing what they've done. These guys have had a fascinating career, a fascinating life. Engineers, church staff people, agrarian insights, teachers, a whole bunch of things these guys have been engaged with, and they've been married for more than 60 years. More than 60 years. Oh my gosh. You're not even looking, you don't look freaking 60. You're not married. Well, you got married when you were 3 years old? You got married before you could have sex?
I'm just telling you, it says your youth will be renewed like the eagles.
Jeez.
Trust in him.
60 years.
Oh, yeah.
62 now.
62 years.
Going on 3. Yep.
How old were you when you got married?
21.
25.
21, 25. My gosh. Well, the 50-year-old wedding anniversary is certainly going to be dead here pretty soon because, people don't want to get married at all, or if they do get married, let's make sure it's like after all the quote-unquote fun stuff. It just doesn't happen anymore. 60, but for you guys to be fully functioning, running a retreat center at 60, you got to be 60 years. How old
we didn't start it till we were 73, so.
That's exactly why I wanted you. Hey, 73, didn't someone tell you you're supposed to be down in Florida right now?
No.
They did not tell us. But the funny thing is, we have been married 62 years, but we've actually had 4 marriages, and we're working on the 5th. They've just all been to the same person.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we keep growing up.
You had a line when I was there. Oh, my gosh, when was the last time I was there? It was probably a year and a half ago.
I know, you're due.
You can just tell because it looks like I'm spiritually falling apart. Oh, you're due. You had a line. I went out, and so for our listeners, they've got a few cabins, they've got a barn, they've got a nice house, they've got a lot of empty pasture land, they've got some woods around. It's out in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. The way you would want a retreat center, right? You want to be in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And so I went out to just get a different gear. I had a little, you call it spiritual direction. Yeah, spiritual direction. Also counseling. Just some time with Sybil, who could push on me and ask some good questions. It was really, really, really good.
It's the contemplative stuff, as opposed to the aggressive stuff you mentioned at the beginning there.
Right. And there's a way for contemplation.
Right.
It's the contemplation is there to get you moving in the right direction.
Well,
Right.
and it's actually to allow God to be aggressive with you.
There you go.
You want a little room for him to be able to say what he wants to say. And it's often in the silence, but it's often in that silence, it is loud. You can really hear. Kind of like Elijah, wasn't in the storm, but in the sheer silence that's almost deafening.
Wow. That's good
Yeah.
stuff. When I was out there, aside from hearing from God, and you also have some exercises you can just hold yourself away in the cabin that was really good. In fact, I think about that time. I thought I should have taken some of those or photocopied them or pictures or whatever. They're really, really good stuff. But anyway, back to my original point. When I was there, I know a bit about maintaining properties and physical labor. I saw you guys, I'm just feeling overwhelmed. I'm going, oh my word, taking on a property like this and maintaining this, that's some things many people start out doing in their 60s and are still doing at 73. And you hit a line on me that I've reflected on a lot. And you said, do you know what it was?
Yes,
What was
I think living 4 quarters.
Yep.
And the way that came to me was when I turned 50, and I sort of had this idea that I looked at people who were in their 60s and they just sort of said, okay, now it's time to go to Florida. And people don't think you've got anything to say. And I thought, I don't think that's the way God created us. And it came through a story from John Wooden. And John Wooden was asked one time, he wasn't focused on winning, he wanted to win, but he said, I'll tell you what my teams do. They play 4 quarters with intensity. And at my 50th birthday, when I went in the locker room to listen, I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to 100. Now, I could die tomorrow, but my sights are going to 100. Anything beyond that's a bonus. And I'm going to seek to live full. There's nothing in creation that doesn't keep growing. And in that growth, it also has to keep dying. Yeah. So you have to keep dying to yourself so that the authentic self can come forward.
Mm-hmm. There was that classic book that came out decades ago, Bob Buford, called Halftime.
Yes.
And it's a good book. Bob passed away a few years ago, but if you're not familiar with the book, Bob lost his, and I knew him a bit personally. I was with him a bit, and he lost his son in a tragic Grand Canyon accident, and he spent all of his money. He was a cable magnate at that point when cable was way before Ethernet and Wi-Fi and all that stuff, and cell phone towers either. That was the whole thing. And so he used all his wealth to hire helicopters flying up and down the Colorado River to try to find his son, and he didn't. And it was a crisis where he said, okay, my first half of life, if life didn't really start until I got out of college, say 22, how many years I have, if life really starts at 22, everything else is preparation before that, I'm probably, he said, only at halftime at age 50 or whatever he was. And it's been a really good metaphor for us. But I'll tell you what's not a good metaphor is the halves are too nebulous. Like when you said 4 quarters, it did reformat for me like, oh yeah, the last quarter is actually the most important, defines whether or not you win the game.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to keep growing. And I said, the beauty is in the walking. We're betrayed by destinations. So we keep saying, I have to get to here. No, the goal is Christ. It's a relationship. It's not, I get this house, I get this job, or I get this title, or whatever. No, it's a continuous deepening of relationship with God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And I think when I pass from this life into the next, that will continue.
Right.
In a sense, heaven all the way to heaven.
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing, Bob, of retirement.
Brian.
Brian,
You really are old, aren't you?
Yeah.
You were saying Bob,
87
Bob
years
Buford.
old. Yeah. All right. Names become irrelevant. You forget them anyway, so
Right.
what the heck. But this whole idea of retirement, I mean, that's a new concept that came into being right after the Great Depression. We instituted Social Security. It was to get some old people to stop working so that the young people would have entree positions. And up until that time, people didn't retire. They worked until they couldn't work anymore.
Right.
And so we instituted, and they set the age at 65. The life expectancy of a male at that time was 61. Well, now we're still stuck on this 65, and our life expectancy is 84 or 85, and we're wanting to stop working to take early retirement at 55.
Wow.
It's just It's I have just never had a concept of retirement. I came to a place where I no longer got a paycheck from anybody, but that didn't mean I stopped.
Right.
No.
Didn't get a paycheck from anybody when we started Springs. Man, that was. Anyway.
No, I want you to keep going. This is great because it's a stimulating and terrifying thing to plan your life to go to 100. Like most of us can understand, all right, I'm going to be pushed out of corporate America, or I'm not going to have the same energy, so I'm going to have to retire and probably live 10 years and then I'm dead and probably my clock runs out. But to say, oh my gosh, if I'm out at 65, you're right, if I'm taking care of myself, 100 is not an unrealistic expectation.
Right.
That's 35 more years.
That's right.
Which is terrifying to me. Like, how am I going to have that much savings? And is that like the last 20 years I'm in a walker or in a bed? You know what I mean?
Brian, I would say don't worry about the savings piece of it. And I know that's counterintuitive and absolutely in violation of what's normally taught and everything. But I think we've instilled a tremendous fear in many of our people's minds about I'm just not going to have enough. And then the questions of what ifs come in. And you can't deal with that what if stuff. I don't care how much, I got to have $4 million because then I'll be as. And you get there and you say, oh, yeah, but, I just thought if this happens, I'd need $5 million. And you get there and I don't care how many millions you got, I can propose a what if to you that'll mean you have to have a little more than that. We took over the Springs. It was a very limited functioning retreat center. Hardly anybody came. The people, bless their hearts, who started it and with good intention and all, they had fallen on ill health. They couldn't maintain it anymore. It was really in bad shape. It had an indebtedness. They had built the cabins and charged it to the foundation, and so for us to take over, we had to assume the indebtedness, which was in six figures. It was in terrible condition the first year. We had $6,835 income and slightly over $96,000 of expenses. And my friends who are business oriented, were saying it is absolutely the craziest thing in the world. And I said, yeah, it is, but God said we ought to do this, and so we're moving ahead on it. And the succeeding few years weren't much better. That first year, though, we had $88,000 worth of donations. So now a footnote to that is that 42 or 44 of that 88 came from the Towners, and 44 of it came from the Holmeses, who were our partners. So we had a lot of tax write-offs, put it that way.
But a part, I think, Dick, of what you're saying there is a part of the work of life is dying before you die.
Talk more.
Well, all right, that's putting it on the line. When we went to the Springs, we had no return ticket.
Yeah,
it was one way, and said, "All right."
Put yourself into it. You're like, this is my thing. I'm doing this. It's similar to when I started Crossroads. It's like, this is the thing. There's no plan B. I'm in. You're saying you put yourself in that spot in your 60s.
Yes, and that's
70s.
70s. Sorry. One more time. How old are you both of you right now?
87 here.
83. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! This is so good. Just you think that you're impressed with yourself. I feel like a weenie boy with you two. My gosh, 80s. I'm such a loser. Wow.
No, just keep coming.
Yeah.
Just keep coming. There's so much learning, but
you're talking about dying before you're dying.
Yes, but dying before you die. So you have to. This is the season. The leaves are falling. They're dying. And they're dancing. They're dancing to the ground. What do they know about death that we don't?
Yeah.
So I have to die to some of my ways of living that are no longer useful.
Yeah.
And so that the more authentic, which is the color of fall leaves, is their authentic color. The green is the cover-up. And that's what most of us have in the first half of life, a personality. We have a cover-up. And so one author said, we develop coping mechanisms in our early life to survive the worlds in which we live. We're little people when we start, and we're trying to figure out how to stay alive. And God actually, I think, gives us those so that we might be protected, our souls. But those coping mechanisms have to die and be brought under the redemptive work of Christ. So personality is us with the green leaves. That's adaptive life, but authentic life is letting go of that.
What are some of those coping mechanisms that we have when we're younger?
Well, affirmation and approval, and power and control, and safety and security. Those are the we have all of them. Most of us have a default of one of those. One of the others. And so think about it. Some people will do whatever it takes to get affirmation and approval.
Yeah.
In their little circle, in a wider circle, whether it's by dress, by
plastic surgeries to stay young forever.
Yeah. Whatever. And power and control. Try to hang on to some form of power and control, and actually
hang on. Don't go into assisted living when maybe you should go into assisted living.
And we don't have it. And Dick and I actually have just in desire to really be appropriate with the board. We do have a place. If we are unable to take care of ourselves, we have put ourselves on line to be able to be taken care of in Cincinnati at
Twin Towers.
At Twin Towers. We actually don't have a desire to go there, but
Amen.
we know that might. But we know that might be. That is something that we said we need to have that in place for the good of the board.
Right.
And family.
Yeah, and family. But really, the board has said to us, we can stay where we are as long as we would like.
So you're in your mid-80s. You've got an entrepreneurial thing going on. You've got an infrastructure that's there. It's not like you just open the woods to people. You've got buildings, you've got bills, you've got maintenance, all that stuff. How is your energy in your mid-80s relative to what it was in your mid-50s?
There's no two ways about it. It's less and it's different, I would say.
Okay.
From a pure physical standpoint, I love physical work. It energizes me, and I've been blessed by God to have good health and what have you. So people say, "Oh man, that's really great for an 87-year-old." I say, "Yeah, but it's not like when I was 50." Mm-hmm. From a mental standpoint, it takes me longer to think through some things and to. Just the other day, I did a little report. I do the financials for the Springs, and I write a little commentary that goes along with them on a monthly basis. And I wrote this one out, and I looked at my watch, and I thought, good grief, it took me, hour and a half to do that little thing. What in the world? I used to bat those out, and so there's some differences there, but part of it too is I'm writing that in a deeper kind of context now. In the past, it would have been all about the numbers and this is compared to last year and year to date so far and blah 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 blah, which are all important pieces of the puzzle. But I wouldn't have gone off in some of the directions maybe and in terms of more reflective and so forth. So there are differences in that regard. Let me read something from Parker Palmer. He's written a great book. If anybody out there is entering into this phase of life and wants some good counsel, man, Parker Palmer is a hero of mine. And his book, On the Brink of Everything, written published when he was 80 years old. And he says this in terms of how things are. Let me see. I thought I had this page marked.
Are you reading this without reading glasses?
I am, although I have glasses. But,
wow. All right.
But sometimes I use them. Sometimes I don't.
Are you guys even human?
Yes, very.
I don't think you are.
Yeah, so while he's finding that, but that movement. All right, you go ahead.
Yeah, age brings some diminishments, but more than a few come with benefits. I've lost a capacity for multitasking, and man, I have too. That's a bad deal. But I've rediscovered the joy of doing one thing at a time. My thinking has slowed a bit, but experience has made it deeper and richer. I'm done with big and complex projects, but more aware of the loveliness of simple things. A walk with a friend, a walk in the woods, sunsets and sunrises, a night of good sleep. Mm-hmm. So, there are changes, there are diminishments, but with the diminishments comes some good things as well. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it's a very deep space, and I just think in our coming to the Springs, Dick had never worked with horses. We had 4 to start with. He thought they take money, and they're a lot to take care of. But we said we'd like to keep them, and so we said 2, and he learned how to take care of horses. You should see him. I mean, they nuzzle with him. They talk to him. He talks to them. He never knew about lake management, and he learned about lake management. We never had chickens. Okay, we have chickens. He goes out, talks to them, and anyway, so never stop learning. And anyway, that part of creation is just a joy to him. And for me, the part of creation I connect deeply to is that outside. I was a camp director for 40 years, so I love that outside space for people, and then listening to them and having meals together and hearing how God has been speaking to them and not trying to fix anybody, but the thing that spiritual direction is helping them notice the movements of God in their life. They don't need my advice. They don't need me to say anything because they've got it. If someone will be still enough with them that that it can come out. So
how else
joy.
does spiritual direction differ from counseling?
Well, counseling works with issues. I have a relational issue. I've got a work issue. Whatever. Spiritual direction works with your intimacy with God, which is now going to impact relationships, because the way my relationship with God deals with how I love myself and how I love others. But it deals first and foremost with who God is. And often our image of God is much smaller than who the God really is.
Are there common pitfalls do you see us falling into as far as living all four quarters that you'd like to speak to? Things like, when I see younger people doing this, I know they're not going to last long. When I see somebody who is failing to do this, I know they're not going to finish strong. When are there any things like that you're picking up that you see that you would say to me, who's 59, I'm ancient to some people, to say, hey man, you're at your age, make sure you're X, Y, Z. Are you seeing any patterns like that in the spirit realm?
Well, I think the aspect of taking time of retreat. I mean, I started doing retreat when I was in my late 20s, and I did it in a restaurant between 2 and 5, and then I went to a Catholic retreat center for the day. And Dick, that's a practice that he took part in as well. So we saw the power of getting away and listening and noticing kind of the movements in ourselves. And the way that Robert Mulholland talks about, he says, solitude is when we get away from the culture in which we're living. So you think of, what is the speed of Crossroads? What's the speed of Cincinnati? And then you get out to the Springs, and you're on this tiny 2-lane highway that you can't go over 35 miles an hour. Well, and
yeah, so I tried.
Yeah, and so you're having to slow down. So then you get in touch with the culture, the speed of the culture in which you live. Then, in silence, you begin to get in touch with the way you try to manipulate the culture to get what you want and need. So think of it driving on the road. I see this car here, and I'm going to go around. I'm going to get ahead because I've got to get here, there. What are the ways I manipulate my world? Now I have something to pray about. That is what I have to bring to God. And so in my day-to-day, those things don't come to the surface.
Yeah.
And so then it isn't that going away somewhere is the magic. It's now I've listened, and when I go back in to wherever I am, which is where life is too, then I become more aware. And the more self-aware you become, the more God-aware you become. That's a John Calvin quote. The more God-aware.
Wow. You talked about something other than predestination and the Old Testament law. Who would have thought?
So the more God-aware you become, the more self-aware you become. And I think a lot of our early teaching in Christian teaching is a lot of God-awareness, but not self-awareness. And that's why your story is so critically important. If God doesn't show up there, where does he show up?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm just taking notes on it now. The more God-aware you become, the more self-aware you become.
And the more self-aware, the more God-aware.
Taking care of your health isn't always easy, but it should be at least simple. That's why for the last 2 years, I've been drinking AG1 every day, no exceptions, at home, on a hunting trip, camping off my motorcycle, no exceptions. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel ready to get moving. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. I like to have it in the morning. I have a 12 ounces of water, so right off the bat, I'm helping my hydration every single morning. This is the one product, if I had to recommend one, I'd recommend this one to elevate your health. It's AG1, and that's why I partner with them for 2 years. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/aggressivelife. That's drinkag1.com/aggressivelife. Get yourself some.
Let me go back, and I rely a lot on authors these days. And, Arthur Brooks in Strength to Strength. That's a pretty popular book now, and he talks about going from one strength to the other. It's a second half, first half of life kind of thing. And he says about older age, 3 things. He says, dedicated to service, not to goofing off. It's always a disappointment to me when I run into one of my friends, my vintage, and I say, "Oh, gee, haven't seen you in a long time. How's it going?" And that, and what are you up to? And he said, "Well, try to play golf 2 days a week." And this latest series on TV, that's really good. I'm enjoying that a lot. Is that kind of it, Joe? And Joe was, had responsible positions in life. He could be mentoring people. He could be sharing his insights. He could be doing all kinds of things to help make the world a little better place and help other people. So, dedicated to service, not goofing off. Recognize your greatest gift is wisdom. Hey, you don't have to be Einstein, but if you've lived that long, you have to have learned a few things and had experiences that taught you some lessons. So recognize that and share. Your natural ability at that stage is to mentor, advise, teach, and that kind of thing. Then he says 3 forces hold you back. Addiction to work and success, attachment to worldly rewards, and fear of decline. And a lot of folks our age and younger yet are just so fearful of I can't remember names as well. I must be on the verge of dementia and that. And there's another great book that.
Well, I already have dementia then.
Yeah, well,
if it's about remembering names, I already have it.
Yeah, but you don't have it because what that simply is a natural functioning of your prefrontal cortex, which is at this stage of the game, it's declining, but it's declining on fluid intelligence, not on crystallized intelligence, and the fluid intelligence deals with things that your name's just a tag stuck on you, and I haven't had any
experience.
But I can remember you, and I think, oh, there's that person, all this stuff, but I can't remember the name. Well, it's because you haven't had any personal interaction with the name.
Yes.
You've had the interaction.
Yes.
And then he said 3 things to do is develop relationships, and I think for Sib and I, one of the things that we're convinced now has been really helpful to us over the years. And it's not that we pre-thought it necessarily, but we've always been involved with folks younger than ourselves. And so develop relationships, particularly younger relationships. Start the spiritual journey if you haven't already, and embrace your weaknesses. Recognize.
Yeah. And that's, one of the things in this aspect of being with younger ones. When I was 50, I actually faced really a good brokenness in my life. And really, I would say not totally by any stretch, but I got over myself. And one of the things that God spoke to me in that time, and I was at Gethsemane, a retreat center, so he had time to get my attention. And the question he asked me was, "Do you love me?" It was just like Peter at that breakfast on the beach. Mine happened to be on a hillside. And then he said, "When you were younger, you went where you wanted to go. But now that you are older, I will take you where you do not want to go. I will dress you." And for me, that is not total, but the death knell of the ego, which is edging God out. And so he's now the driver. And one of the instructions, and we were just on our way to Willow at that time, was don't do anything unless someone asks you. And if someone asks you and you can do it, take someone with you. So I'd done a lot of teaching and run a ministry in that before then. And now in that aspect of mentoring, this is not about you. This is about you developing others. And so that has been a real pattern. And I have to die in that because there sometimes are things I would like to speak when I'm speaking with someone. Mm-hmm. But I need to let them do it because actually they do it better.
Yeah.
And I get the joy of seeing them just come into a fullness that they wouldn't have otherwise.
You guys are in your mid-80s, and I'm recognizing that both of you are about the same place. Dick, you're a few years older than Sybil, a couple of years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you got similar outlooks. You got similar energy. You've got similar smiles that are happening here. Neither one of you is in a walker. You're active. You're sharp. All that stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, it seems that most of the mid-80 couples I know are all in the general same place as each other. Like they're frail, they're skin and bone. I'm looking at you guys. I don't know if do you lift weights, Dick?
A little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
You're not bodybuilders, but like you got muscle mass, both of you.
Yeah.
You have muscle mass.
I walk 3 miles a day.
How much?
3.
Yeah, it's great. You both got muscle mass. You got your mental acuity about you and everything. And it seems like when I'm with people who are in their mid-80s, like they're all at the same spot. Like they're all in rapid decline, or they're like you doing really well, or they're stale, or they're stagnant, because the same disciplines one's doing, the other one's doing eventually, right? So, like, fill us in. For us to be 85, like, what are the things that you've done for the last few decades that we all might want to consider? One of them is, you said you make a point of spending time with people younger than you?
Yes.
Okay, why? Why is that important?
Well, because I think it's a call. I mean, what does it say in Timothy? Invest in
the next
generations.
Yeah.
And for me, I can't decide the legacy. Other people will decide the legacy I leave. But what I can do is outlive my life. And outliving my life, it means I have to put it into lives of younger people. Yeah. If I put it into lives of people my age, and again, there are certainly a few of those, we're all going to die together.
Yeah, it's going to die in a couple of years, right.
No.
But Debbie Downer, but
yes, but the scriptures are very clear. The next generation, the multi-generational groups together. So we always look for that.
So one of them is spend time with younger people because the Bible says you invest in it. Also, you haven't mentioned, I got to think it's part of the eternal lifeline plan because younger people just increase your expectations on yourself. Younger people are active, and now you're active, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. What else?
The other thing I've worked hard on for the last decade or more, Ryan, is to prepare myself for the diminishments that are inevitably going to occur. We're very fortunate. Some of those diminishments are being pushed off beyond the normal bell-shaped curve. But I know myself well enough to know that at such time as I'm not able to do some things that I'm able to do now, I could, by virtue of some growing up history and so forth, I could go into woe is me, and take on son of a gun. And I've worked really hard, and I hope successfully. I won't know till I get there, but to prepare myself, I said I want to enter that time in a grace-filled manner. I want to and accept whatever it occurs, because Dick, that day will come. There will be that time.
So how have you worked hard to prepare yourself? What does that look like?
It really thinking about reading things like Parker Palmer. One of the great things about getting older, I've got 87 years. I can look back now on my life and see God's plan as it's unfurled. that I had no idea of at the time. I say, oh man, this happened there, and then that happened here, and ooh, that was hard. But if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened here. And I see all these things that look back. So I remind myself, look back and be grateful, and you know, and so that's another. Obviously, the things. We eat well. We exercise.
Tell me about that. What is well? What's your eating regimen? What do you do for eating?
Well, we lots of salads, stuff we grow in the garden, protein.
Yep.
Eggs come from the chickens. Well, we don't eat in between meals, and we don't eat after supper. And and so
so it sounds like a pretty good balanced diet. You're not vegan. You're not carnivore diet. You're just what normal people eat, but not crap in between or after.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
And trying to cut out sugar. That's been a big thing with me, which is hard to do because dang stuff's in everything.
Right.
But I don't consume a lot of the real sugary stuff that desserts. We don't basically have dessert.
I don't even make them. But I think one of the other things for me is gathering people around the table. Mm-hmm. All right. Sometimes people, I've heard people say as they've gotten older, don't want to cook anymore. I mean, we'll have people for dinner or lunch 3 or 4 times a week. And sometimes I'll have 15 around the table. And so the aspect of sharing a meal around the table and then...
You're cooking for 15 people around the table periodically.
It's a big table.
That's a lot of work. Who's the 15? Who's in that?
Well, there are people who come. People have come from Crossroads who have come for a day retreat.
Okay.
And then they'll come and have dinner with us.
Okay.
And so
awesome.
but around the table, that is the place of intimacy. And intimacy is intimacy, about knowing and being known. And so we share, we have a question, we share a story, we really celebrate around there. So to me, the table is a space I love gathering people around. And so a lot of times people say, I'm just going to go to restaurants. I say, meal making is very easy today. I mean, there are many ways to do it. And I like having plain or simple food on a beautiful plate.
Yes.
And that just says, I am so glad you're here. Yeah. And so anyway, hospitality is inviting the stranger into the inside circle of intimacy.
So it sounds like one of the keys, someone we could say, okay, well, let's have people over for dinner. But really the thing under it, what you're saying, I think, is keep serving people.
Mm-hmm. Well, keep serving people and invite them to be themselves. Mm-hmm. So one of the questions we have, if people don't know each other, so there'll be, however many, 6, 8, 10, tell us something that we should know about you if we were to that would be important to know if we were to get to know you. Oh my goodness, the stories that come forward are beautiful stories. And with the young ones, the older ones, it doesn't matter. Age is not the issue.
Well, and Sib's speaking there now, too, about one of her great gifts, which is intentionality. Okay, it's a meal around the table, but it's also it's questions around the table, and it's reading around the table, and it's intentionally moving toward deeper relationship. And
we had a group from Willow that came down some years ago, singles. They were all in their late 20s, 30s. You're referring to a church
by the name of Willow Creek.
Yes. And they came down, and somebody who knew us and had lived with us said, I want to bring my small group. Okay, most of these folks had not sat around a table for a long time. And they sat around a table, and we did this in story. And then it was in the winter, built a fire, and this gal who had lived with us, she said, okay, Dick, I want you to read a story. the intimacy that these gals felt. I've never been in a space like this. And
which is really sad in
Yeah,
many
yeah.
respects, but
yeah, but
true.
that just some of them hadn't done it growing up, or it had been a long time. They lived in their own apartments, and so.
Read a story. That's an intriguing thing. What do you have a go-to? Do you read to people?
Oh, a whole bunch of them.
Yes.
But
Are these you're not going through a whole book?
no.
Children's stories that are actually meant for adults.
Huh? Like
Not,
what?
not,
What's
not in
Well,
all cases, but
Well, many,
Yeah,
but
but
many of it.
Yeah.
Patricia Polacco, who
Yeah.
children in 3rd and 4th grade read her, but she writes stories about her life. You had an astronaut on recently.
Yeah,
Okay.
Charlie Duke.
She writes a story. She was has dyslexia, and she was put in a special class, and she was in a group with everybody. Somebody who had Tourette's, somebody who was growing faster than their body could handle. Anyway, out of that group, one went on to NASA. And one of the things that they did in this story, they had a science fair and they built a plane that they got out of a junkyard, put it together, and they said, the teacher said to them, this plane is going to go to the moon. All right, one out of that class went to NASA, and he took the picture that had been taken by that special needs class, and he met the author, Patricia Polacco, some years later, and he said, Patricia, we did go to the moon. I stored that picture on the Apollo, I think it was the Apollo 13, stored that picture. That story touches every person.
Oh, yeah.
Because we all have a place of handicap. Yeah. It can be an outside handicap or an inside handicap. I want to go back to what you said about. Go ahead.
Just one more. Short stories. Tolstoy has written some. The 3 questions. The king asks his court. What are the 3 questions? What's most important to do? Who's most important to help me do it? And how will I know the timing and stuff? And it's it's all of 2.5 pages of 8.5 by 11 paper, but it's very.
It creates a conversation.
Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, or a good poem read, and what do you think about that?
Yeah,
Love that.
always a little afterwards of thing. Yeah,
That's very cool. Need to add that to the repertoire. I haven't done that forever and ever and ever. That you're right. That would be very intimate and unique.
Yeah. And then the other thing I love to do at a meal, and it's Jewish. It's a Jewish tradition. We pray at the beginning of a meal, and often we invite everybody to pray, because once a person uses their voice, then they're free to use it around the table. So one word, one sentence, and then, Dick or I will close it. Then at the end of the meal, to look around the table and say, it has been good to be together. Let's offer a blessing. And we give the Aaronic benediction, and we'll say a line, and then we invite people to say a line to each other.
Bless you and keep you, may make
Yes.
his face shine
Yes.
upon you.
Yeah, and then they say it to each other. And then when they get up to leave, I say, make sure every person is said goodbye to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one other one I'll tell you, because this was the Robbie Ryder brought out the Crossroads worship team.
Oh, well, they
okay,
obviously
this
cool.
whole worship team that came out for retreat.
In case you're not aware, Crossroads is my day job.
Yeah.
It's called Crossroads Church. So yes, go.
So they came out, sat around the table. Okay, somebody on the staff came in. You know how the worship team looks.
Right.
You and that
Very
and Dick and I.
artsy, disheveled.
Yeah, and that. Yeah. Okay, so we asked the question. We said, "Tell us about how you got interested in music as a child." I am telling you, the stories around that table about how music got into them was absolutely fascinating. And then we closed with a story. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience.
Man, I'd love to know the answer to that with those guys. That's
yes. Oh, yeah,
fantastic.
it was fabulous stories.
That's cool. Let's talk about your marriage. I'm going to give each one of you.
Which
yes,
one?
Each one of you gets to ask. Each one of you gets to answer the same thing. The question is, I'll ask you, Dick, first. Dick, what's the most impactful thing Sybil has done to support you?
I would say she has consistently affirmed me to others in their presence. She has built me up, if you will, sometimes to my wonderment as to how in the world did she think that. But so that I had this absolute 100% conviction that Sybil was always speaking well of me. That was.
Sybil, how about you? What has Dick done best to support you?
Well, he has really given me a lot of freedom, and a lot of freedom to develop as a woman, to develop my gifts, and been supportive of them. He absolutely, around our home, if there's anything that I would like to have needs to be done, just he'll say to me before he goes out, okay, so now is there anything you need done today?
Yeah.
And we happen to be a bit traditional. I cook and that, but he always cleans up, and he's become a grill master, reluctantly.
Are you smoking yet?
No.
I don't mean cigarettes. I mean, I'm talking about smoking.
No.
Oh, man, change gamer. Of course you would. You wouldn't buy something like that. Said, don't worry about money.
Unnecessary.
Your whole life is about worrying about money. Your whole life is about not spending money. You have a long reputation about that.
Yes. And the other thing is, we both love to give. And in some ways, we certainly have things that we want to give to our family, but we really want to give most of it away before we go. Yeah, just so that aspect of generosity that is built in him is wonderful, and we did have to grow up, because in our first marriage, he was looking for the mother he didn't have, and I was looking for the father I didn't have. Okay, then I got over that. Okay, I mean, and we began to talk about how do you feel, and so we got in when you say this or that or do this or that, and so now there began to be a deeper emotional honesty in our second marriage, and places of retreat. And then in the third marriage, a celebration of gifting and really setting each other free to do. And what I would love to do with Dick, if he said, I want to go to the Boundary or to the Quantico, I would say go. Go twice a year? Go. Because he's somebody who sticks to a task, works hard, and I would never pull that back. Yeah. And then, so anyway, and in this marriage that we're in is this aspect of living in the sense of integrity and peace. So a part of that work is everything inside of me cleaned up? And I just wrote a letter to a family member and reflected back on my relationship and thought about a way in which I was at the beginning of that relationship that was really not grace-filled. Yeah. And I just said, I want to go back and just say, I didn't know how to be that. And I was so concerned about how others would feel about me in this place that I couldn't do it. Will you forgive me? So for me is, may my life have wholeness. May I be at peace with all the enemies. Mm-hmm. And so anything with Dick, anything with others. Yeah. Because he's been pretty tight on me early on.
Pretty tight on you.
Pretty tight on finance.
Finances, yes, he has. Yes. Oh, don't worry about money. Oh, dick bullshit. You worry about money a lot. Stop it.
Yes.
I worry about the poor stewardship. of
Okay,
money.
yeah, right, whatever. Sure, yeah, you call it whatever you want.
Call it what you want. Huh?
I tell you, I didn't hear anything that you said, Sybil, after your first marriage. I don't think anybody else did. Like, oh, wow.
And yes,
Yeah, Lib
yes.
is absolutely the mother I never had, and I'm not sure if I'm the father that she's never had. But yeah, you just explained a lot of our divorces.
Yes.
Right here.
Yeah, so those are the things that have to die to be able to marry again to the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't this, and for me it was like learning a new dance, and you step on each other's feet a lot
Yeah.
until you kind of learn the moves.
Big news. The final book in the 5 Marks of a Man library, a 60-day devotional, officially releases on December 3rd. It's chock full of original teaching, scripture, prayers, challenges to get you off the bench and into the game. You're going to grow in what you practice. And this book is all about that, focusing on and growing each of the 5 marks in your life until they become second nature. What are they? Men have a vision. Men take a minority position. Men are team players. Men work, and men are protectors. The 5 Marks of Man devotional, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, is a perfect gift for men of all ages, whether they're 13 or 103. Pre-order it on Amazon, and the book is guaranteed to arrive on release day, December 3rd, which means you'll have it right on time to follow along with some special things we have planned just for you, our podcast listeners. Find the 5 Marks for Man devotional on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. Now let's get on with the show. This is really helpful for me. I feel like I want to go into personal counseling now with you guys because I'm really challenged in that seeing how energetic and focused you are at 85. I've declared, I've said, hey, I'm going to be done in the senior pastor role at 70. I just turned 59. So 11 years is kind of a long way. Yet at the same time, it's not. I mean, decades you blink and they go by anymore. And you're making me a little paranoid that I put my shingle out 70 too soon. Like maybe I'm cashing out too soon. Well, go ahead, tell me.
Yeah, well, I just say, make the statement. I think I'm letting go of the senior pastor role. So what have I let go of? So you've let go of something already. All right, what
can I take hold of?
And what am I being invited into? Mm-hmm. So sort of that listening, and what do I need to die to? And sometimes it's the way people know me, and it's the way I've known myself. Yeah. But Dick and I would never have thought of doing this retreat center. It was just a series of yeses to God that got us there.
We thought we were moving back to Cincinnati to live in an apartment because it didn't make much sense to buy another house at age 73, and and just making that announcement to our family that hey, next summer we're going to move back and live in an apartment. And my one son said, Dad, you love the outdoors so much and everything. If you live in an apartment, man, you're gonna have to have a place to get away on the weekends. And I said, well, yeah, that'd be great, but I don't know how to do that. And that question, which I repeated 2 days later to someone who had lived with us, whose sister overheard and said, oh, if you want to get away place, you ought to talk to my neighbor. He's a Christian guy with a vision to buy a farm and sell an acre here and an acre there to different people, and it would have to be in an hour of Cincinnati. And I said, oh, really? Well, that sounds, and well, I'll introduce you to them, and one step after the other, and that whole series of steps, and a couple of them were kind of big asks, so to speak, and I said, "Oh man, we got to pray about that." And God said, "Take the next step," and we wind up, we're not living in an apartment. We're living on 150 acres of beautiful grounds, and it just.
Yes,
But that's
Yeah. So I just say it's the beauty is in the walking.
That's really encouraging because I think the only you guys are encouraging, inspiring me, which is why I really wanted to have you here, is because the only template we really have, or at least the dominant template, is I work till pick the age, 55, 65. I've said 70. I do my day job till then, and then I go off and I do what I want to do. I have more flexibility. I do this, that. There's not really templates out there of, and then I go start something new. I literally start something new. That isn't what people do, and that's why I'm so inspired by you, and probably also why you're both so young and vivacious is the right word? Young and energetic and all that stuff. In your mid-80s, because you started something, you aggressively stepped out there and said, "Nah, apartment, no, we're gonna start and maintain something." Wow.
But just look at trees, 100-year-old trees. I mean, and again, they 150. They keep growing. So, Lord, as long as I'm alive, I want to be extending the reign of the kingdom of God. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's something very small, and sometimes it's something larger. But mostly, it's Mother Teresa. It's small things with great love. Yeah.
And the other thing I think, Brian, it happened to me at age 80. We were together we were going to be together with the whole family to celebrate. Opa's going to be 80 years old, and I thought, well, what do I want to share with the other generations? They're now three.
The most important people in our lives.
And so I gave some thought to that, and I came up with a list of truths and practices that have been important to me. And I came up with, 16 or 17 of them. I got a piece of paper to, and just shared those with them. And that was helpful to me as well. I said, okay, what are some truths and practices that have really been important? And you
gonna share those with us, or am I just gonna get the paper when we're done?
Well, it's.
Well, maybe we'll do a little email. It's a long paper. Maybe I'm just here. Maybe we'll do a little email to the Aggressive Life. Maybe I'll put this in my next email that goes out, Dirt. There you go. I like that. That's great. Let me take a picture, a quote of that, or a picture.
Oh,
of it,
you can
whatever.
You can have it.
That's great. Oh, you get that? All right, sweet. Yeah. Guys, this has been really, really rich. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about?
I thought you were going to ask me about my fishing exploits, but that was kind of
well.
When I didn't hear beforehand, I thought, he's got said to Sybil, he's going to ask me no.
Are you fishing on site?
No. Yeah. There is a lake on site, and there's some nice bass and bluegill in there. Yeah.
How big is your lake on site? I don't remember.
2 acres.
2 acres.
Yeah.
Do you fish places other than that lake?
Well, life-wise, I've always done wilderness canoe up into Quantico in Canada, and that's I've probably been there 45, 50 times, but I've been there for my last time.
Oh, really?
A couple years ago, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it just realistically, I'm 87, and we've got some hills at the springs there, and sometimes I'm walking up this hill on the one hill on the driveway, and I'm carrying some tools or a chainsaw or something, and I'm up near the top, and I'm saying, okay, Dick, if you had a canoe on your shoulders and a pack on your back too, and it wasn't a nice paved driveway or gravel driveway, but it was a bunch of it was a portage over a bunch of boulders and rock. And wisdom's a better part of valor.
So you're feeling the effects, and it's just a wise move for you not to break a leg.
But it was emotional, when I realized, I think I've been there last time.
How long ago was that?
That was COVID year.
COVID.
I was set to go, and then the park was closed and everything. And then the next year I had lined up to go with 3 guys in a 3-man canoe. And at the last minute, one of the guys couldn't go, and the other fella had never been and had very little canoeing experience. And I thought, okay, so I was 85 then, and I said, okay, do I go with a rookie who doesn't know how to canoe, and we get out on these big lakes and the winds come up and that? And I thought, again, and the family was sort of saying, we don't know, Dad. And I pulled the plug on that then, and then I would have been 3 going on 4 years.
But he is teaching the next generations to fish. I want to be this because
I've got a number of pastors who went to Quantico for the first time with me, and who now take men from their congregation all the time.
Well, let me stay here for a moment.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hold that thought. Was that the first thing that you said, okay, I'm never going to get to do that again? And how is that when you drop something off at your age? You say, okay, that's my last.
And that reminded me, I said, okay, you said you were going to accept in a graceful way these diminishments, and this is one of them. Wow. And I still had, for the next 2 years, I still had the packs up in my workshop on a shelf, Canadian gear, Canadian packs. And about 3 or 4 months ago, I looked up and saw those and thought, I need to give those to somebody that might use them, because I'm not going to anymore. And so my one grandson, who's an official trip master, I gave him that certification after he'd been there with me 4 or 5 times. And he and another good friend that goes up there, I gave the gear to. But I think I've accepted it gracefully.
Still hard, though.
It's still hard, though.
I keep thinking this. I'm afraid to ask it, but I will anyway. You guys still sexually active? You should know.
And
you
no.
should know the answer.
No, yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes, there. I mean, there are a couple of physical things, but yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of,
In terms of, go ahead. I'll ask you this.
Well, in terms of
orgasm?
Yes.
Not so much.
Okay. But in terms of physical touch, and
yes. Oh my gosh,
physical
yes.
touch and
good.
But the beauty is, Dick had prostate cancer, age 55.
You had prostate cancer,
and had and they did not the surgery.
Yeah,
they didn't.
It wasn't totally successful.
Yeah.
Well, it was successful as far as cancer goes. But
it lessened the stroke because they hit that muscle. You're saying,
But
and so
let me. It exposed me to a sexual relationship with Sybil that did not involve my having an erection, and that exposed me to. Hey, my role, it's not about me having an ejaculation. It's about me satisfying Sybil. And that really, we've talked about it. I mean, it was a much more intimate relationship after that surgery than it was before. And not that it was bad before, but it was a whole mindset change for me. I realized that, hey, this isn't about me satisfying me, So we.
Beautiful couple.
Thank you.
Beautiful wisdom, insights. Wow, we'll have to do it again, man. That's a deep well.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that you are, which is why you are who you are.
Yes.
Like you can't, that story alone is an example of that's why you are where you are. You're taking a different look on life. You're taking a selfless attitude on life. And that's why you are in the position you're in physically, relationally, whereas everybody else is about themselves.
Yeah.
That encapsulates it beautifully and perfectly. And that's
Yes.
that alone, that's been 30 years. You had 30 years ago
Yes.
to make that decision. I've been walking in 30 years. So now I'm going, of course, now I understand.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Dude, sheesh. My gosh.
Yeah.
I tell you,
So that's one of the beautiful gifts he's given me.
yeah. Well, he just gave it to me. You know, we get inspired by whoever is a best-selling author or whoever fills a auditorium at a conference, and whoever, you know, invents a new widget and becomes the next new tech master, whatever it is. But man, it's those kind of stories that make us. It's those kind of stories that make us a man of God.
Yes.
You know, being a man of God is in short supply.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how many books you sell, how many people like your stories. That's that stuff that makes you a man of God. And I'm deeply touched by that,
Yes.
Dick.
Oh, thank you.
Well done, brother. Well done.
Well, he is a servant.
Okay. I don't like to cry at the end of the progressive life, but it just happens.
Well,
Hey, you know what?
you needed to.
It's called the aggressive life because we're here to get you to do something. So something here God wants you to do. It could be take on a posture of a servant in your marriage. It could be reorient your finances to last longer. It could be stay in your job longer. It could be understanding what it is about you that's your biggest developmental challenge. It could I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but we just mined really deep gold here from two warriors in the faith who walk their stuff and are still running at their age. We can all learn from them. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Sybil. Is there any advertisement you want to give for yourself or the center before we check out here?
Not really, Brian.
Of course there is, though. Oh, you don't need to because you're always sold out.
Yeah. The word is out, and
If you could
But come
find
and
it,
use,
you can
use the Hermitage. And I mean, we've had
we have a Hermitage which is available just for folks who are close enough to drive in for the day. They can reserve it, and we have more openings there. But it would not be an overnight stay at that point.
Yeah, but it's a great space.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. Yeah.
Time for you to build some more cabins, it sounds like.
No, that's not on the.
Yeah,
We lose money on every cabin
yeah,
that we have.
Yes,
Interesting.
yeah, and this is where more is not helpful.
Yeah.
No, because the land needs to rest. The land cannot handle more, and if there were more, the activity and noise and that. So we just know this space. I mean, when I think of 10,000 in 10 years, hey,
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, and then where that goes and what people do in creating that in their homes or here at Crossroads or at another church, creating spaces where people get listened to. No,
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love your godly attitude, but just a push for anybody who uses your facility. I'm just going like, if you're operating at deficit still, people aren't being generous enough. Hey, if you're going there and you're hearing from God, guess you're hearing, be more generous. I am continually confounded by the people who call themselves Christians and are not generous and are stingy. I'll just vent with you one. We had our most recent man camp, 3,000 guys. We worked really hard to have a way for someone to give because 55% of everybody who came is not part of the church that actually started and paid for the land. We had a lot of expenses. So I said, hey, here's the place where you can go to give some money. Here's the website, real simple, because we got people we hire. We've got the cost for the camp, or I think it's $100 if you got in the early bird rate. It just covers the basics like trucking in water, the hat, the beer, the setup of the kegs. We have the setup of the tents. So I said, hey, if you want to, help us out, that would be great. Do you know how much 3,000 guys gave?
I would hope that it was a significant amount.
It was 63 cents. It was $1, and by the time we paid bank fees on that, it was 63 cents. $1.
Yeah.
3,000 dudes, $1 horrifies me.
That's not $1 average per
No,
person.
$1. $1.
So nobody,
total.
only one person
One person gave
something.
$1 among 3,000 people. And, you could say, well, people weren't prepared to give, or, well, you didn't pass a basket. Of course, people don't have cash. All I'm saying is, like, I think about with your situation, too. Like, you're blessing the people you are there.
Yeah. Well, and Brian, I would hasten to add, we have benefited from very generous donors who are not guests, and that cover that differential between cabin donations and operating expenses.
Yeah, good for them.
And our operating expenses are low because it takes 3 couples, take 6 of us to maintain and run the place. 4 of us don't get anything, and the other 2 raise half their support. So,
that's amazing. That's amazing.
But it can't be that way in the future.
But
we're the passion part of it, and that the next people that come will need to be paid. So those donations will need to be
increased.
raised.
Yeah, and they'll have to figure out what fee structure is and all that stuff.
My answer to folks' questions about, well, how in the heck is this place going to operate when you all go and and I say, you know what, if God wants it to operate, it'll operate. There'll be, and we've seen that in countless ways over the 15 years. So, and in recent years, we have managed to build up a little reserves, and so
Sweet.
We'll be fine.
Well, I keep giving my final close, and you keep dropping wisdom bombs on me. Well, I've had a great time. I say all the time in the Aggressive Life, the podcast, it's all about me. It's all about me. I get to talk about what I want to talk about, and I want to talk to you guys greatly, and I've gone longer with you than I normally have, so thanks for hanging in there with us. We'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life.
Got it.
That was fantastic. That is fantastic. I mean, great.
Well,
I mean,
thank you.
great.
I must confess, and truth be known here, I'd not listened to any of your podcasts up till now, and so we were going to be on, and I said, "Gosh, we ought to, we need to listen to what the heck's going on over there." So we listened to the first one, and it's John Mark Comer. And I say, "Holy mackerel! This guy's." New York Times bestseller. Whew. Yeah. I listen to the next one. It's astronaut that walked on the moon, And then I go, what in the Sam Hill are we gonna?
Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and more at briantome.com. Pre-orders for my newest book, a 60-day devotional called The 5 Marks for Man, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, are open right now on Amazon, along with all the other books in the 5 Marks library. Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Then send an email to dirt, that's dirt, at briantome.com to get a free Aggressive Life sticker. Find more on Instagram at briantome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.